maintenance items that we talk about in the report, those are important to follow because we don't want to have any problems going forward. Once you get in, we want to make sure you know how to improve the conditions outside so you won't have any issues a year from now. On the roof situation, the roof shingles, they look okay. They're about 13 years old. You probably have about 6 years, give or take, left on them, 5 to 7. I had to view them from the ground because I had no physical way to get up there. When I went into the attic space, naturally you look for places where you've had either previous water penetration or active penetration. Previous would be conditions that are stained or are dry. An example of a previous leak that you had here is the type of attic vents that are on this roof are the old style. So when you have like storms like Charlie, Jean, Frank, remember years ago?
Yeah.
Okay, all that wind sometimes blows the water through there. And you did. Above that living room upstairs, there is a vent. At that vent, the insulation had been wet before. Not wet now, it had been wet before. Because it probably got blown in right through that vent. Okay, but we saw it, so I'm just mentioning it to you so you know. Conditions to do as we move forward are roof maintenance. The reason I say maintenance because you do have water penetration, but it's for a reason other than a defect. In other words, a defect is typically something wrong with the roof that's causing a leak that gives you a problem. Maintenance is something that sometimes is neglected that starts to exhibit a problem, and that's what we have here. If you were standing in front of the house at the street and you were looking at the garage, up above the garage, the roof line where that soffit is, you have some rotting wood at the soffit and the fascia, but you can only see it from the attic. And you can only see it if you're my size or smaller, because you're not going to really get over there. It's hard. So I couldn't really reach it physically, but I can tell you what's probably causing it. The shingles along the edge of the roof, the drip edge, are probably loose. And when you have enough wind and rain, in the summer particularly, it gets underneath there. So when you see these photographs, you're going to see about 2 inches of rotting wood along the soffit for about 2 spans. Not very much, but just enough. Above the garage. How do you fix that? What do? You have somebody that does roofs. I would hire someone who does roofs for a living in this particular case, because I would probably say that they would want to do the perimeter maintenance treatment. That would be just taking roof cement and making sure all the shingles are still tight. Okay, because that's what caused that. What took me so long in the attic, I know you saw me go up there, I don't know when you saw me come out, but what took so long was it's a small attic. So once I saw that, I wanted to make sure that we didn't see that anywhere else. Okay, so I went around the whole attic. So if you heard any choice words from downstairs, it was because I was bending and moving, and I don't bend and move as good as I used to when I was a little younger. But I got through everything, and that's the only location we got. Okay? Other than that, the insulation looks good, the ductwork upstairs looks good, hurricane straps I photographed, they look good. I got no other issues with the roof. Okay, any questions on the roof? Okay, now structurally looks pretty sound. I don't see any evidence of a problem.
But it's a good idea to take and do maintenance on the edge and things like that.
On the edge. There's 2 things you're going to read in the report that I think are a priority just because that damage is there. That's why it's a priority. Doing the tar and the cement on the shingles around the perimeter, like you just said. And then this tree over here, the trees that are rubbing against the roof on this side have to be trimmed back. Because they're going to probably end up causing some wear that shouldn't be happening prematurely. Okay, and I would, if you have a guy that's willing to work with you, someone who can do that roof work while they're up there, they can probably just trim the tree.
That kind of tree is just cutting, isn't it?
You could, if you want to get rid of them, sure.
No, I mean, that's the way, on these kind of trees, how you trim these kind of trees. It's by cutting the whole things, isn't it?
Well, the branches are what's making contact with the house. Like if you look at that tree that's against the house, you would have to trim all the branches that are leaning towards your house. Now, if it were me, I would probably not keep the trees close to the house. I'd probably just get rid of it. Those trees are easy to get rid of.
Yeah. Once they're turning like brown, this is the dye, or it's just a color?
No, I think it's just a color. I've seen plenty of them that look that way before.
Because the yellow, this is mean a healthy one. But the brown, to me, it looks like not a healthy one. Like this one here is no leaves on it and it's kind of dead.
We had a palm tree once in our front yard about 5 or 6 years ago. My wife gotta get rid of that thing, it's dead. 2 years later, the thing thrived. Now it's bigger than, it's twice the size it was when it looked like it was dead. Now moving on to the, remember I said the water was off, remember?
Yeah.
Okay, that was just simply the listing agent or someone had the water turned off at the main shutoff valve. So what I did was I checked the meter, which is at the left side of the driveway, and everything was on. So I went to the main shutoff valve, which is on the outside. Remember that funky looking heater that you first asked me about?
Yeah.
Okay, on the outside wall over there, there's a shutoff valve.
Shut up.
Okay, so I turned that on, and then I carefully watched the meter to see maybe there was a reason they shut it off. Is it leaking somewhere that we don't know? But that meter stood still. So if that meter stays still, we're good. Once I did that, I took water pressure. It was 65 pounds per square inch, and I took the water pressure at the outside hoses, but also at the laundry room, to make sure that when you hook up a washing machine that you're okay. And the pressure was the same at all 4 places, so that's good. I ran water for a very long time. I don't know if you noticed that, but up in the master,
We thought you were having a shower.
I should have. I was very hot at that time. But I noticed the discoloration in the ceilings had been painted, and I didn't know if it was hiding a problem or maybe a previous problem that was fixed that they just painted. So I ran that water for a long time in the master because that's right above the garage. You know what I mean?
Oh, there is a sign of a previous leak.
No, just that it was painted, and I never know if it's painted. I look really carefully to see if we can see a stain. So the longer, that's why I start upstairs. I know that what goes up gotta come down.
Yeah.
So if you run it from up there, if something's leaking, we should have seen something down here. So the good news is, as long as I ran the water up there, we didn't have anything leaking down here.
They just shut it off for, any other reason, whatever.
Just because they didn't want to, just sometimes people feel more safe when they shut the water off and it's a vacant house, no one's here.
Exactly.
So that nothing can happen. So we'll shut it off before
Like
we
whenever
go.
I go away, I shut it off too.
Yeah. I think it's
Or
not
anything
smart.
happen, you're not home.
Yeah, you're not home, especially a 2-story house. If you've ever seen a plumbing catastrophe in a 2-story house, you know why it's a good idea to do what you do. So the plumbing, I think, checked out very good overall. One thing I wanted to point out was over here, just so you know, I have a moisture detection device or a moisture meter that I use to see if a material is wet or dry. So there's 2 places inside the house where I saw evidence of water. Both places are dry, but this is what you should know. This one over here, that leaks from the vent that's on the outside wall. See that microwave that was replaced, they didn't hook it back up to the vent. That vent's inside the house. But there's a vent out there that I believe that's the reason why the water got in. Now I put a meter to it, and it's dry, and my guess is that when they painted up the house, they sealed up everything. That would solve the problem. It could have came in during
So
really
they
severe
moved
weather.
the vent and they put the microwave. So it used to be a vent over there.
Mhm.
Okay.
At least that's what it looks like. But if you look at the material, you see how it had been wet before.
Yeah,
All
exactly.
right, but you're okay now. Nothing's getting in there now. Same thing here. That guy over there. You're good with this. You're like following everything.
لا خلص وهي تقدر تحكي معايا. لسه هي دوبوا بدأوا وهي ماشي.
There's no pause button on this. I might just stop it and